Hello class, today we are reading chapter 5 in our volcano book. As always, our volcano book can be found on that middle shelf in our classroom within our Google Classroom. So if you go through there, click on where it says Our Classroom, look on that middle shelf. If you click on our book that says volcano on it, you'll see some links to follow. Go ahead and follow the links to chapter 5. Chapter 5 is the last chapter in our book, and this chapter is called Volcanoes and Life. So the title is kind of clever, because it's pretty easy to think about volcanoes associated with death and destruction. But we've been learning about the ecosystems that help the land recover after an eruption. So today we're going to think about how Mount St. Helens is related to other volcanoes. Let's go ahead and do what we've been doing throughout the week here. Let's look at the captions and the pictures or illustrations first, and then we'll go back and read the text. So our first picture is on the second page, or you might call it page 52 as it says in the corner. And it looks like a picture of our Earth. Over here it says Mount St. Helens is part of the Ring of Fire, a circle of active volcanoes that surround the Pacific Ocean. So we can see on here where we have this yellow and our orange kind of colors, this is where you can find all of these different volcanoes. And as you can see, it kind of forms something of a ring. Let's check out the next picture. This right here actually has a few different things, and this is page 53. You are going to see this page later on. It's going to ask you something about it, possibly. So let's take a look at the top and what's going on here. I'll read the caption and then we'll kind of go back and look. It says, top, the mid-ocean ridge is where plates move apart. Here, molten rock wells up from inside the earth and is added to the trailing edges of the plates. So here's what's going on here. We've got this rising hot molten rock. This right here is sea level, so this blue up here is water. So this is all happening under the ocean. Your rising hot molten rock is coming up, and it's kind of pushing up out of this crack. As it moves out this way, though, it cools, starts to cool off, and it starts to form extra land, if you will. All right, this middle section here, it says where plates collide, one turns down and slides under the other into the mantle. Here, rock melts, magma rises, and volcanoes may erupt. So we can see this Juan de Fuca plate here is kind of sliding under the North American plate as it goes. And then as it's here, it kind of leaves this hole where it can shoot up some magma. And this is showing the one under Mount St. Helens. A lot of times when you have a situation like this, where you'll also experience some earthquakes, and if you remember back in our reading, Mount St. Helens did have some earthquakes before that eruption happened. Now we see here on the left, in the Pacific Northwest, the small Juan de Fuca plate is moving eastward from the mid-ocean ridge. It collides with the big plate carrying North America. The small plate slides under the big one. Here, eruptions have built the Cascade Range. And so this small picture is kind of a zoomed out picture of the one above it. And if you notice here, we've got Washington, Oregon, this is California, and it would continue down. So where this is kind of coming in, it's kind of squishing up the land where those two plates are meeting. And so as it pushes up that land, you end up with this mountain range here. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We've got some pretty flowers here. It says, mosses and other low-growing plants now cover the slope behind the mountain ash. They will serve as seed beds for other plants as life returns. Small picture down here, one group of scientists found insects and seeds on a dome rock. And if you look closely, you can see those in there. So here's some seeds. We've got kind of the white fluffies on them. Up here, it looks like we have an insect here, and then another insect up there. Here's another picture for us. The naturalist saw a rock the size of a small house, and so I'm guessing they're talking about this huge rock right here. And if you look really closely, you can see a guy sitting here on the rock. He's right here, kind of in the bottom middle of the rock, just kind of sitting and hanging out. Here's a couple more pictures for us. It says, on the rock, he saw many kinds of life, including algae, ladybugs, and flies. So here's some algae in the top picture. We have a ladybug here in this picture, and then there's your fly in the other picture. Here's some more life against a very gray background, but no caption for that one. And then at the end, of course, we have our index. So if there's anything particular you want to go back and look at, you would just look for the word here in the index, and then it will tell you what page number that's on. And then we have a back cover. All right, let's go back and read the text. Let's go a quick way up. All the way to the top. All right, so volcanoes and life. Read along with me as we go through. Again, reading aloud helps make us better readers. It helps us to really recognize, like when we pause for a comma, it helps us to learn big words and know how to pronounce them. So always read along. One day, 100 years from now, a new forest will be growing on the north slope of Mount St. Helens. Everything that lived on the slope before May 18, 1980, will be able to live there again. For the Earth is a planet of life, and volcanoes are part of the Earth. Volcanoes destroy some life when they erupt, but they also help to make life possible. The Earth has many volcanoes. Some are dead or extinct and will never erupt again. Some are active, giving off lava and gases. Many are sleeping or dormant. They are quiet now, but at some time they will erupt again. Some of these volcanoes are on the ocean floor. Others are on land. Most of the land volcanoes circle the Pacific Ocean. They run from South America to Alaska to Japan, Indonesia, and New Zealand. Together, they are known as the Ring of Fire. Nearly all the other land volcanoes are in a belt that runs from Indonesia to the Mediterranean Sea. For many years, this belt and the Ring of Fire were a scientific puzzle. Why were most land volcanoes in these two regions? Today, Earth scientists think they know the answer. It has to do with movements of the Earth's crust. The crust is a shell of solid rock. We live on the crust, but we do not see much of it. Most of it is covered with soil and oceans. Beneath the crust is a region called the mantle. It is made of rock that is very hot. Rock of the mantle can flow like thick tar. The crust floats on the mantle. Each scientist used to think that the crust was all one piece, like the shell of an egg. Now they think it is broken into a number of huge slabs, which they call plates. Each plate is made up of rock of the crust and rock of the upper mantle. The plates are in motion, moving a few inches each year. The movement is something like that of the belt in a checkout counter. The belt rises in one place. It moves along, carrying whatever is on top of it. It turns down in another place. As the plates move, they too carry whatever is on top of them, the ocean floor, islands, and whole continents. There are places where plates pull away from each other. Here, molten rock wells up, and sometimes volcanoes erupt. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the molten rock has built a ridge. The ridge runs through the Earth's oceans, all around the globe, like the seam on a baseball. At this mid-ocean ridge, new material is added to plates that are moving apart. It is like the place where the checkout belt comes out. There are also places where plates collide. Here, one plate turns down, as the belt does, and slides under the other into the mantle. Here, rock melts, magma rises, and volcanoes may erupt. That is what happens all around the rim of the Pacific Ocean. In the Pacific Northwest, a small ocean plate is colliding with the big plate carrying North America. The small plate slides under the big one. That's also why in this area right here we have quite a few earthquakes. I'm sure you've heard of earthquakes in the California area. Here eruptions have built the Cascade Range. Here volcanoes such as Mount St. Helens still erupt from time to time. A big eruption seems like a disaster to us, especially if lives are lost. But volcanoes also help to make the Earth a planet of life. Volcanic eruptions add gases to the atmosphere and water to the oceans. Some Earth scientists think that when the Earth was very young, eruptions may have given our planet its first atmosphere and oceans. Volcanoes are builders of land. Floods of lava have built big chunks of continents, such as the Columbia Plateau in the Pacific Northwest. Volcanoes build some of the Earth's mountains and some of its islands. They make places where people, animals, and plants can exist. Volcanoes are also makers of soil. Ash, pumice, and other forms of lava break down in time. They mix with the remains of plants and animals, making a rich soil. The soil nourishes plants, which support many other forms of life. Volcanoes destroy, but they also build. And after each eruption, life does come back, finding small footholds and spreading. Natural scientists knew that life would return to the north side of Mount St. Helens, but they were awed by how quickly it came back, by its ability to survive, by the way it appeared in even the most unlikely places. One natural scientist visited the crater after the explosive eruption stopped. At first he felt he was on another planet. He was standing in a rocky bowl with sides that rose 2,000 feet above his head. Rock falls kept rumbling down them. Clouds of gases and ash rose from vents in the lava dome. Near him was a rock the size of a small house. The rock, which had erupted from inside the mountain, was a new part of the Earth's surface. A greenish patch caught the scientist's eye. He found that algae, simple green plants, were already growing on the rock. He began to walk around it, looking for life. He saw a ladybug with 11 spots starting to move around as the sun warmed it. He found a wasp laying eggs on the rock. He found flies everywhere. Then he came on a different kind of ladybug with only 2 spots. He found a moth that was the same color as the rock. Finally, he discovered a little opening in the rock where a bird had spent some time, perhaps an evening. There were its droppings, which contained the remains of insects. All this life, the scientist said in wonder, on just one rock. That life, like the islands of life and the silver clouds of seeds and insects, was a promise. It was a promise of the time when all St. Helens would once more be a green and pleasant mountain and home to many, many kinds of animals and plants. And that is the end of our book. Okay, when you're finished with your work today, please go into your AR and make sure that you take the quiz on this book. You can leave the book open in case you need to look back for any of the questions. Thanks.